Tuned into the Midday Music and More show. This is Marcus Pasceri coming to you live from the studio, and I am joined here for Music Monday by Richard Janik. Richard, how are you doing today, sir?
Marcus, it's great to have you beside me here in the studio.
You know what? You humble me. I appreciate that. But it's great to have you here, sir. I was listening to your music. We've been talking for the last 15 minutes or so. Let's start it off. So you've been performing for 40 long years now, eh? Maybe more.
I think that's the count.
That's the count, you think? Okay,
yeah.
So what would that be dating back to 85, 84?
I'd say 83, 84 was when I was really ramping up with it, but if you want to get technical about it, my first solo gigs as working gigs as a solo musician go back to 1979. I still remember the very first one was at a place called the Bellboy, which is now the restaurant over at Puce.
Okay. Yeah.
And at the time it was, just me and an upright piano and, a couple of Carole King tunes and some Guess Who tunes and sneaking, every once in a while you put an original in there and hope someone would catch it.
There it is, and me being a part of a band, I completely understand. I do the exact same thing. I do love playing covers, though, I must say, because it's just so, it's gratifying. Yeah. But speaking of gigs, you've performed all over Canada, Maine, Germany.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? Do you have any favorite venues?
I love playing around here. I'm from here, and I suppose I have a friend who would. I remember when I came back to Windsor in the late 1990s. He said, "Well, it looks like you got sucked back into the Windsor vortex," and I thought that was a great way of saying it because I remember my roots. I remember the early days of listening to. The Big Eight, where there were a lot of hits on the Big Eight. And, I would try to decipher those songs on the radio and try to figure them out. And, piano parts and guitar parts, when I was a 12-year-old kid. And I guess coming back to your roots allows you to reinvent yourself, but, with some history.
For sure. Yeah. And you started on the piano, correct?
I took piano lessons from nuns.
From nuns?
From nuns,
wow.
Yeah, for about 5 years. And alongside that, my sisters took piano lessons too, but they would come home and practice their pieces, and I would try to figure out what they were doing. So I was blessed with a quick ear.
Okay.
Which was sort of, a blessing and a curse at the same time, because what happened while I was taking my piano lessons is I short-circuited the whole process of reading music. So I would more or less recite back to what they would play for me as what should this sound like at the end after you go through the process of reading them. But I would circuit that. So inevitably got the phone call home after about 4 years and saying, "Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Janik, your son is very slow with his music reading. We're going to have to figure out some other angle here."
Interesting. Well, a lot of people that actually get into the studio recording side of music, the pop music side, they kind of stop being able to read music, I've noticed.
Right.
I could read music back when I was younger. I totally cannot read music anymore. Yeah. I think it's more necessary to just feel it. You feel that music.
I definitely feel it.
Yeah, I believe you for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about your beginnings. Temperate Zone, 1987. I listened to that all night last night. Honestly, Temperate Zone and Gems, and they are spectacular. I just want to talk about Awaiting Your Return. Mm-hmm. It could have been, I swear to God, in a John Hughes movie. I'm not even lying. Yeah.
Well, that was one of the earlier tunes of that particular song cycle. I suppose when I was writing that song, I was thinking of somebody who I used to play music with, and how nice it would be to come around again and play some of those songs. And the chorus just kind of played itself in my head, and then the chords on the piano. It was sort of almost like a little bit of a melancholy piece, but the chorus comes around and has a nice sort of uplifting rhythm to it. And I'm still awaiting your return. You're just kind of like waiting around for this person to sort of give you a phone call or something. Hey, are we going to do this again?
Yeah, I love the lyrics and everything, and the Crow's Nest song too. Living in the Crow's Nest. Yeah, I liked that idea of the whole pirate ship kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like I suppose a metaphor for for looking at things from a bird's eye view, and but understanding that, hey, there's a world down there too, and
I like
so you
that.
can't stay up here too long.
I think that's your top Spotify song, actually, is "Living in the Crow's Nest."
Is that
I
right?
found. Yeah. I kind of went into your top list there, and I want to kind of skip ahead to gems really quick, because I know we're kind of spending a little time in the past, but that's okay. I wanted to talk about the composition "Summer Shades of Blue." Beautiful piano. Is that you on the piano?
That's me. Yeah. And when I was writing that song, I was just looking out through a picture window, and it was just the way the sun was hitting the trees, and sometimes it just draws you in to be able to think of what's going on at this particular time in your life. And a picture was painted, visually, and then the picture was painted musically.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's beautiful. Is that does that inspire you often? Kind of, what you're kind of soaking up with your eyes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever watch? I know that Pink Floyd used to watch movies while they jammed. Have you ever actually been inspired by a film before?
I guess maybe some certain episodes of The Twilight Zone.
Really? No way. I love The Twilight Zone. Maybe.
Yeah, there was just a marathon on the TV this weekend.
Is that why? Temperate Zone, Twilight Zone? What are we?
There may have been some implication there with that. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Temperate Zone was more or less where we live in this part of the world, and also the fact that the music itself, it wasn't cranked up off the wall, but it also wasn't something to fall asleep by. It was somewhere sort of in that midstream.
I like that. That's great. Yeah, like a happy medium. Beautiful. Now, we were talking a little bit before about the instrumentation on these albums, and you were saying that you worked with session musicians a lot of the time. Any top dogs that you'd say you really, really dug working with?
Oh yeah, well there were some players that I had an opportunity to work with on the first album. In particular, on a track called "Long Lost Friend." I always heard violin, like electric violin, in that song, and through the studio I was working at, I was able to get some phone numbers for these people. So I've called up this fellow named Ben Mink. Ben Mink used to play in a band called FM.
Yeah.
And was also the violin player for K.D. Lang. I'm sorry.
Okay,
yeah,
K.D. Lang.
It was K.D. Lang's music director.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So he played guitar and violin for her. So he came in and just did a great number on that. And I was kind of enthralled. I thought, wow, Ben Mink is playing on my record. And then on that same first album, through a mutual acquaintance, mutual friend, I was introduced by telephone to Ian Thomas.
Okay.
Ian Thomas.
Oh, I know that name. Shake It. Does he do Shake It?
No, that
Ian
was Ian Matthews.
Oh.
Ian Thomas had a whole string of Canadian hits. He had one Billboard hit, Painted Ladies.
Okay. Oh, yes. Okay, that's the one I'm thinking of, Painted Ladies.
And then a whole string of Canadian hits like Right Before Your Eyes and Pilot and Time is the Keeper, and very, very innovative guy in the studio.
Oh, for sure.
So I thought, wow, I got an opportunity to bring my semi-finished tapes here to Ian's studio, and we spent about 3 days at this really idyllic setting.
Yeah.
And he had a studio built inside of a barn, so it was a building within a building.
Cool.
24-track.
That's how you soundproof something.
Yeah.
Building within a building.
And we blew through these tracks, and he played and sang a few things on there, and he lent me his Fender Stratocaster for a couple of things. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. I'm using Ian Strat.
Wow.
And so in the end, it was a very interesting mosaic of an album.
Good.
And got some good airplay, and I thought at the time, hey, that's what's supposed to happen. I put a record on, I get airplay.
Yeah.
And not necessarily the case when you do your follow-up album. You find that, well, maybe things have shifted here a bit in the listenership or the way that the radio industry is structured. Because back in the time of the first album, I would make appointments, call the music directors, and I'd be up and down the 401 at even off the beaten path, places like Tilsonburg and Wingham, and I'd be in the radio stations. They would play the record, listening at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we could playlist this, and they would give you the straight goods on whether, hey, this is all right, or no, we're not touching this with a 10-foot pole. So you definitely got the straight goods back in those days, and it was when radio was structured differently with someone like yourself, exactly what we're doing at this time. And I would sometimes get an interview too. Like, out of the blue. They just put on the mics and say, okay, we got Richard Janik in the studio here. We're going to talk about this new 45 he just dropped off here.
There you go. Wow.
So it was quite a time.
It's a completely different time today because, like, I mean, now you can just have a basement studio with, like, whatever kind of mic setup that you bought on Amazon, and then you can just, throw that right on Spotify, and you never know, it could become the next big TikTok sound.
Right.
I'm a drummer myself, so I wanted to kind of talk about, like, the drummers you've played with, because those records, they have some absolutely great beats. Like, I mean, we got some Steely Dan action happening there. Yeah.
Yeah, so on the first album, I've always had a sense of quality control from the rhythm section up. And I always think to myself, you got a good bed track. That's your foundation.
For sure.
And I think that kind of comes from a bit of this sounds crazy, a little bit of a manufacturing mindset.
Okay.
I grew up in a tool and die shop.
Yeah.
So you knew that you had to have a strong foundation of whatever you were building because,
Absolutely.
you have a stack-up issue after that. So, and it's the same thing that happens with producing music. You can have a stack-up issue if you're kind of like going off center here, or you're out of the groove a little bit from square one here.
Yeah.
It's not going to work in the end.
No.
And that's why all those Van Morrison records sounded so good. They were just done cold, right off the floor, and those grooves were there. And so, Jordan Anderson was one of the drummers on that first record. There was a Claude Desjardins who was these are all like, Toronto cats. Jordan Anderson did all the drumming on, like the Atlanta Miles albums.
Wow.
And, trying to think who else was on this. I'm just looking at the credits. This is almost like a bit of a,
it's like trivia, right? I'm kind of being unfair to you a little bit.
Time travel. Oh my God. And I'm looking at this picture of myself and I'm thinking, what the heck happened?
Don't be ridiculous. No, I mean, it is a great picture. So, I mean, to your defense.
Oh, and of course, Doug Tan, my longtime friend, Doug Tan played on some of these tracks too. Doug is out of Leamington. He's living in Las Vegas right now. And if he's listening, hi, Doug.
There you go.
My lifelong friend.
Living in Vegas?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, he was working on the cruise ships as a music director and drummer. And then now he's in Vegas and, tours with Charo and some of these other artists.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, you know what? I'll be a little more fair on you. Let's skip ahead to your album that dropped not today, just today, right?
Just today.
Yeah. Let's hear a little bit about that. What do you think about the streaming so far?
It looks like I get these notifications and already, hey, you got 10 streams on what was it? I think the music that we made or one of the other songs. It looks good so far.
Good.
So,
and this is your first record since 1996.
Since 1996.
That is literally when I was born.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That is honestly just so kind of blows me away.
Well,
ultra modern relic.
Ultra modern relic.
Right.
Yeah. It's how would I say this? It's the term applies to a lot of little elements of that record because there were a couple of tracks on that record that were actually done. If anybody remembers analog tape and the wonders of analog tape, 2-inch masters. That was how the albums were recorded in the old days, and I happened to record on a bad batch of tape, and there was this bad batch of tape going around the industry. So mine wasn't the only project that suffered from this. So we actually did the bed tracks at the studio in Toronto called The Room, really neat little place. When I went back to start doing the overdubs about 2 months later, you put the tape up on the machine and the oxide starts coming off, and the tape sounds like metal on metal breaks of a 30-year-old car.
You never like hearing that. No.
And so the tapes are unplayable.
Yeah.
But fortunately, at that initial session, there were a couple of tracks where I did what are called 2-track dubs or reference dubs.
Sure.
So I've had these reference dubs sitting in a closet on a cassette tape for years and years, and I just put them up, and I've transferred them over to digital and built those out as the bed tracks for these for 2 of the songs on this record. And then all the rest of the songs were done new from scratch. My friend Doug Tan played on a couple. Again,
he's back.
Kevin Venny
That's great.
on drums, Josh Zaleva on bass, and I played some of the bass myself, but mostly all the piano, guitar stuff. Dale Revard on steel guitar, wonderful player. And
I'm a sucker for steel guitar.
Yeah,
always a sucker for.
My
steel
brother
guitar.
Al played on a couple of tracks. He's a horn player.
Okay.
Yeah, we played a lot in the Polkadelics and did some recording. But Al played flugelhorn on one of the tracks and trumpet on another track.
Wow, you are one experimental guy. You got a lot of different sounds going, eh?
It's not far off from the first couple records where. To quote a publicist that I spoke with at one point about trying to kind of get some distribution, her exact words were, "Richard, I love your stuff, but I'm in a complete quandary of where to put it."
Wow.
And that, it doesn't really bother me that much,
Kind
because
of a
I know that
compliment.
I know that I'm doing, the right thing.
You're just doing what you want to do,
yeah.
and that's kind of all that matters, right?
Yeah, I've never really been one of these formula guys. I mean, there are musicians who do very well in structured formulas, and all the credit to them. I've just never been able to gravitate toward that.
Sure.
It probably because all those early records I listened to, particularly groups like the Guess Who in America and these Crosby, Stills and Nash. Yeah, there was a sound to them, but stylistically there was a lot of maneuvering within those 4/4 bar structures and things.
Yeah.
A lot of different instrumentation. Think of like George Martin, who produced the America records, and the orchestration and the experimentation that goes on those.
Yeah, incredible. Now, you say that the Guess Who was part of your formative years.
Very much so.
And you opened for Burton Cummings.
I did.
So, what was that like, kind of?
Well, it was interesting the way it all came about. How would I say this? I initiated that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
in a way that was, I suppose, a little bit experimental in its way. I more or less, showed up at the first show of his tour, and I, announced myself as the opening act, and then it just basically hung on from there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, that's kind of inspirational.
Yeah, but
how long ago was
that? Was in 1986. He did a tour called 15 Years of Gold.
Okay.
And it was like one of the last tours where he was still touring with his white grand piano and his and the four fellows in his band.
Not many people are like, I mean, what a voice, but what a pianist, man. That guy could go.
Truly. And he's not really regarded. It's a very interesting observation that you brought up there, because when you hear those records and you get into the grooves of those post Randy Bachman Guess Who records, where all that piano stuff is on there, it is a treasure trove of piano playing.
Yeah. My Own Way to Rock was one of the first piano pieces that I always wanted to play.
It's a great riff.
Yeah, no, it's an excellent riff. Anyway, let's go back to, let's not stay in the past. You just played Kingsville a week ago, right?
and that's another little
that was Canada Day
snippet of this career. Yeah. I have a group that plays from time to time. It's a show.
Canadian Gold Rush.
Canadian Gold Rush. So we're sort of a journey through Canadian pop music. So
For sure.
we play a fair bit of Neil Young and the Guess Who, some Bruce Cockburn, Gordon Lightfoot.
Cool.
And it's really just a tip of the hat to a lot of the music that we've grown up with here in Canada. And sometimes there's not enough credit given to that realm of music. We even play Bryan Adams and the Tragically Hip, and so it's a nice spin to put on Canadian music. You can't really call it a tribute band, because we're not really giving tribute to one particular artist. It's Canadian pop as a whole. Yeah.
And you don't play with Canadian Gold Rush as often. Like you
not
only
too
have
often,
but
how would I say this? I kind of mid-show, I kind of hijacked the band, so to speak, to play a couple of tunes off the new record.
Okay.
I let the audience know that as well. I said,
sure.
Okay, we're just gonna lock into something here because the new record's coming out. So
that's fair. And you're playing open air this weekend coming up.
Really looking forward to it. Yeah,
great.
On Friday or Saturday now. Saturday the 12th.
Saturday the 12th. Yeah. Okay. And you got folks, you hear it here. He'll be around in Amherstburg for open air. Richard Janik, and look out for Ultra Modern Relic that just dropped today. I mean, that's amazing. How'd you plan that?
I think you knew I was coming.
I think so. Richard, thank you so much for joining us in the studio today. We really appreciate it, sir.
Oh, thanks so much, Marcus, for having me.
Have yourself a great day. Absolutely my pleasure.